Welcome to our class, dear children. I am Mrs. Snehal Sudhir Mori, and today I am going to teach you Chapter 1 of SST, Tracing Changes Through 1,000 Years. Dear children, last year in Standard 6, whole year you studied ancient history. Now, this year in Standard 7, we are going to learn about the medieval history. Tracing changes through 1,000 years means from last 1,000 years what all changes took place in society. We are going to learn it. So let's begin. Observe both the maps on the screen very carefully. These both maps are of Indian subcontinent. The map 1 was made by an Arab geographer Al-Idrisi in 1154, whereas map 2 is also of Indian subcontinent, which was made by Guillaume d'Elcy in 1720. He was a French cartographer. Cartographer means a person who makes map. Now observe both the maps carefully. Both the maps are of Indian subcontinent, but in the first map you will find that Sri Lanka is located on the top of India, that is to the north side of India, whereas the second map is the correct one which we see nowadays. First map was made very early, that is in 1154 CE, which was incorrect. Later on it changed and the correct map was made in 1720s. This is what the change occurred. These kind of changes we are going to learn throughout the year, and this is what is a medieval history. Let's learn about it. New and old terminologies. Now, what all terms changed? See, if the context in which information is produced changes with the time, what about language and meaning? See, the information changed, then obviously the language and its meaning is also going to change. Historical records exist in a variety of languages which was changed considerable over the years. For examples, medieval Persian. Medieval Persian is different from the modern Persian. Languages, grammar, vocabulary, everything changed with the time. The difference is not just with the regard of grammar and vocabulary. The meaning of the words also change over the time. Not only grammar and vocabulary changed, but the meaning of the words also changed. So it was very necessary of the historians today have to be very careful about the terms they use because they meant different things in the past. Take a term Hindustan, for example. Today we understand it as India, the modern nation state. When the term was used in the 13th century by Minhaj-i-Siraj, a chronicle who wrote in Persian, he meant the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the lines between Ganga and Yamuna. He used a term in a political sense of land that were a part of a dominance of Delhi Sultan. The areas included in the term shifted with the extent of the Sultanate, but the term never included South India. See, Hindustan word which we say today, Hindustan means India, but in the early 13th century it was not that. Only the states of Punjab and Haryana and the lines between Ganga and Yamuna was termed as Hindustan. South India was nowhere involved in this, and today we say Hindustan means complete India. This is what the change. See, by the contrast, in the early 16th century, Babur used Hindustan to describe the geography, the fauna and the culture of inhabitants of subcontinent. In the 16th century, Babur, what he said, Hindustan means he used the word Hindustan to describe geography, fauna and the culture of inhabitants of subcontinent. Earlier In 13th century it was used only as the areas of Punjab and Haryana, and in the 16th century Hindustan word was used by Babur to describe geography, fauna and the culture. See how the word changes. As we all will see later in chapter, this was somewhat similar to the way of 14th century by poet Amir Khusrau used in the word Hind. While the idea of geographical and cultural entity like India did exist, the term Hindustan did not carry the political and national meaning which we associate with it today, and currently we use Hindustan word as a complete India, but it was not there in the past. It was used for the different meaning. This is what we are going to learn, how the changes occurred in the last 1,000 years. Next point, historians and the sources. Historians use different type of sources to learn about the past depending upon the period of study and the nature of investigations. Historians rely on the coins, inscriptions, architecture, and textual records for information. Observe the pictures carefully. Next, the value of paper. The value of paper. Nowadays, we use paper very easily and randomly, but it was not such in the medieval period. People used paper to write only holy texts, chronicles of rulers, letters and teachings of saints, petitions and judicial records, and for register of accounts and taxes. Manuscripts were collected by the wealthy people, ruler, monasteries and temples. They were placed in the libraries and archives. These manuscripts and documents provide a lot of detailed information to the stories, but they are also very difficult to use. The paper, value of paper. Dear children, value of paper. Earlier it was very difficult, or it only wealthy people could use the paper because paper was very expensive. But later on it became cheap and it was used by everyone. In the medieval period, mainly the paper was used to write holy texts, chronicles of rulers, letters, and teachings of saints, paintings, petitions, and judicial records. Later on, it was used by everyone. Let's see. Manuscripts. Observe the given picture. It's a painting of a scribe making a copy of a manuscript. Painting is only 10.5 cm by 7.1 cm in size. Because of its size, it is called a miniature. Miniature means very, very small. Okay. Miniature paintings were sometimes used to illustrate the text of manuscripts. They were so beautiful that later collectors often took the manuscripts apart and sold just the miniatures. Observe the given picture, children. A man is trying to copy something, right? He is copying something and he is trying to make a manuscript. This is called a miniature. Because miniature, why? Because it's very small in size. The painting size is also given 10.5 cm by 7.1 cm. This painting is so small that, and it was so beautiful that collectors often collect these paintings. Next point. Manuscripts were collected by wealthy people, rulers, monasteries and temples. They were placed in libraries and archives. What is archive? A place where document and manuscript are stored. Today, all national and state government have archives where they keep all their old official records and transitions. These manuscripts and documents provide a lot of detailed information to historians, but they are also difficult to use. There was no printing press in those days, so scribes copied manuscript by hand. As scribes copied manuscript, they found small changes. Example, a word here or sentence there. Here, dear children, I'd like to give you an example. If you try to copy your friend's homework, you will do some mistake while writing. You may make a spelling mistake, you may make a sentence mistake. Same way, when the people copied manuscripts or the information, they made some or the other mistake, and the original manuscript was not the same because it was copied several times, and a little mistakes made it different from the original ones. These small differences grew over centuries of copying, and until the manuscript of the same text became substantially different from the another. This is a serious problem because we rarely find the original manuscript of the author today. As a result, historians have to read different manuscript versions of the same text to guess what the author had originally written. Next, for example, on occasion, authors revise their chronicles at different times. The 14th century chronicle Ziauddin Barani wrote his chronicle first in 1356 and another version 2 years later. The two differ from each other, but historians did not know about the existence of the first version until the 1960s. It remained lost in the large library collections. I hope you understood the lesson. The half part of the lesson is covered. The remaining half part will be covered in the next lecture. Now, today's homework. What are the difficulties historians faced in using manuscripts? And question number 2, describe in few words sources of history. Thank you, dear children, and have a nice day.